I don't think I trust my work enough, or I think it's exciting enough to have it, a lot of it. So I think it's a lot like salt. Like it's bad to eat food without salt, but much worse to eat just salt. So I think it would be a fucking nightmare if all the city were done with my work. I wouldn't know how to handle it neither. I believe that collective projects are more interesting than individual projects. I don't work in team. That doesn't mean that when I'm investigating, there's a bunch of other people around the world that are doing similar things that I'm interested in. So I pay attention to what they do, and they pay attention to what I do. And in that sense, I'm talking about collective projects. Francois Roche, or people like Reglin or Lars, or people that I'm interested in what they're doing, and you have common ground. So I think they share the knowledge. I think it's always good. It forced to go back to the essence. Like technology and techniques is not so relevant, so you still have to make your case and an argument because everybody using the same tools. Like today it's available for everybody. That doesn't mean that everybody's interested. I think architecture is about the discourse, it's about an idea, it's about an intellectual project. I mean, any idiot can build. But not everybody can produce like an interesting argument for it. The grotesque and the horrific and all these kind of horrors that I've been writing in the last 2 years. I'm trying to create my own discourse, but it's different than a manifesto because I don't think that it doesn't have any pre-meaning or predetermination. Like I think at the end of the day there is a lot of things that you do, but many things goes to your DNA, who you are and what you are made. It's like when you ask, I mean, the most typical question of the lecture: where your form come from, how you know what to stop. And how do you know to stop? I always answer in a very rude way, like how you know how you're done fucking? You just know. And the other one is how the form come through. I mean, you can argue, you can build an argument, you can make it right, but it's like trying to explain to a friend why you're in love with, in my case, with my wife. I can give you a series of reasons why I'm in love with my wife, but there is the deep real reason or the deep motivation I cannot describe it. But also basically have a manifesto mean that you know what you're doing, and 75% of the time I don't have a clue what I'm doing or where I'm going or what else. So it's not really like a super intellectual attack. I have a manifesto. I think it's great if you have the balls and you have the clarity and you have the intelligence to be able to write the manifesto. Good for you. It's not for me. I want to be much more liberated, to don't be attached to that notion, to kind of this kind of a statement about what you're supposed to be doing. I'm much more interested in riding the wave and see where it takes you. What at least I'm trying to do in Colombia is to maximize to the stream the notion of aesthetic, the intellectual notion of aesthetics, and the digital production of the generation of aesthetics through form, and the redefinition of the burlesque and the horrific and the grotesque. Inside is to take to the stream the notion of the autonomy of the form as a vehicle of production of architecture, like how you assemble, how you put it together, and so on. Even though they look very similar, the root of each of the research is very different, even though both of them are what interest me. And I think the crossover and the feedback is fantastic, and also it's great to start to see how all the information allows with students to look at each other. Like my Colombian students, they'll check what my Syriac students do and vice versa. And they start to understand the difference. I think that's a great thing. Teaching is a fundamental part of my own practice and my own research. So to spread it in more than 2 places, it will be too complicated. And also, I'm fairly stupid. I don't have more than 2 variables. So to add a third one, I will start to repeat myself. I think 2 I can handle. I think the environment of the institution has a much larger impact than that it looks at the surface. Like I think you can bring yourself with your knowledge, and in each place the result will be different. And I think that you start to proliferate people that goes back and forth between institutions and so on. At the end of the day, also there is some sort of a kind of alliance, like the G8. I think there are certain schools of architecture that belong to a circuit, so there is a certain kind of shared knowledge anyway. So I think the schools are going to need to sharp, and I think they're going to need to keep reaching out. But I like the idea of what Colombia is today, which is what I call it some sort of the UN of architecture. Like it's becoming less and less in a school, and it's becoming more like a gigantic lab of debate. I think that could be a really interesting way to go. Maybe the dangerous side for that is I think it makes more complicated for the students to figure out how to navigate it.
Yeah.
But certainly make it fantastic for the faculty. I mean, one of the tendencies I see today with the students is that they have this kind of a little bit of everything mentality, which in my view is just idiotic. I think it's the worst thing that you can do as a human being. I mean, this idea that you need to try everything to define what you want to be, I don't know, I think it's kind of stupid. I think I'm much more interested in kind of much more focused research and work. But at the same time, I think that the idea of being an architect and the possibility of what an architect can do is so broader right now, which is also, I think, is more difficult for anybody to grasp what kind of work they can do. So in that sense, tying back to what we were talking today in the museum, that's why I think my work is a little bit romantic and so on, because it's very, I think, radical and extreme from the virtuosity of form and manipulation of it, but in many regards remains extremely conventional formalism, which is at the core of being an architect. So, I mean, I live with that sort of dichotomy. It's kind of a paradox. So there's certain kind of a, I wouldn't call it conservadorism, but I would say certain notion of a tradition, and that's what I think the romantic idea of explore, because I think romantic, or the idea of romanticism implies certain notion of tradition and the respect of certain rules. Which is also, I think, all the people who are interested in form and geometry and technique and aesthetics, like me, they have a certain respect for the notion of the rules and a certain pedigree of virtuosity that you need to achieve. I mean, I'm only interested in virtuoso work. Any artisan I like, they're virtuoso. I like to see a work and people in action that they do things that I cannot do. And I know it's very snob, but I think it's fine. I think architects, we should be snobs. I mean, the notion of the demagogy of populism in architecture, I think is awful. I think architecture's job is to be a snob, to raise the bar all the time. And I think we should be that. I mean, but ultimately, let's put this on the context. I mean, I talk about this thing because this is what I do every day in my life. This is what you do. But let's be a little bit lightweight. I mean, like I hated this idea how pompous we are about how architecture is. Like, it's just a game. Like, I mean, I talk about all the things. I mean, I'm serious about it, because it's what you do. But the truth is, architecture is fairly relevant for society at large. I mean, and we are that. I mean, we are like a decoration on a cake. I mean, like, we are not a cake. At the end, being famous an architect, what that means, that a bunch of people will know you in a school, that's about it. Like, I flew once with David Bowie, that's famous, when you take the whole first class of an airplane for you and your entourage. All of us, we are just idiots, posing like we're famous.